Let's talk football. Let's talk some CFL football, and let's talk about the games that just were. First of all, Calgary and Saskatchewan, a game that was, wow, for the first half of that football game, that was everything that was wrong with the Canadian Football League this season. The quarterback play was not good in this game. Two guys that have had a lot of success over the years, but they didn't necessarily get that done in the first half. Cody Fajardo with 3 interceptions. Bo Levi Mitchell with 2 interceptions. Jonathan Moxey and Ed Gainey were ready to rewrite their contracts right there after combining for 5 interceptions in this game. But ultimately in the second half, this turned into a very, very entertaining football game, which Saskatchewan winds up winning in overtime, and they really needed this. They really needed it for Cody Fajardo, for Craig Dickinson. If they lose that game on the heels of 4 Cody Fajardo interceptions, I mean, that's not going over well. He gets the final drive in that game to send the game into overtime, but he's going to get run out of town if they don't win that game.
Well, I think probably a bigger indictment was the lack of attendance at that game. And to me, that tells me something about where the Rough Rider faithful are with their confidence in this team and just being, I guess, embedded with this team. It was very disappointing to see that crowd. And by the way, they could have easily lost that football game. Rene Paredes, who's been outstanding all year long for the Calgary Stampeders, he missed 4 field goals. He goes into that game and he misses 3. 4 during the course of 14 games, and he misses 3 in one game. Wow, that's just tough to swallow.
Yeah, they caught a break, and for a team that wind up hitting the crossbar, the upright in the West Final 2 years ago, they were due, and now they're going to go on the road and take on Winnipeg in a Battle of the Banjo Bowl, or a rematch of the Banjo Bowl. We'll get to that in a minute, but also the Eastern semifinal with Hamilton knocking off Montreal. And Trevor Harris, you thought he might be able to author a similar Zach Caleros type of story. It didn't work out, and I really like how Hamilton is playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I remember prior to the game against the Lions, looking at some of their numbers, their offense prior to that game against the Lions had over like 400 yards in 3 straight games. Mazzoli was throwing for over 300. All of a sudden, they just kind of found their offensive groove in the middle of the season. It's carried over, and I love what they're doing. They've gelled, and you know that Hamilton, they're hungry. This is a team that went to the Grey Cup the last time they had it in Calgary, of course, losing to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. This is a team that's been there and wants to get back. I see them knocking off Toronto and getting to play in front of their hometown fans.
Yeah, I think at the start of the season, everybody assumed that Hamilton was going to run away with the East. They didn't. There was a lot of hiccups along the way. But now I think of the teams that are alive, I think they're playing the best football, at least in the East. I'm picking Hamilton to beat Toronto. When you look at the season series, Toronto has won 3 of 4 meetings, including the last 3. The last game they won, it was by 19 points in Toronto late in the season. So, the last time that Toronto was the last time Toronto hosted the Eastern Final was 2017. They won the Grey Cup that year. The last time these two teams played in an Eastern Final was back in 2013. The Ticats won that game. So no real carryover. But when you look at the fact that Orlando Steinauer, been there, done that. He's got a little more playoff experience as an assistant and as a head coach over a guy like Ryan Dinwiddie. Certainly he's got some help with Chris Jones. But that offense in Hamilton, they've really come together at the right time. They've gotten healthy at the right time. If you asked me to choose between Jeremiah Masoli and McLeod Bethel Thompson, I'm probably taking Jeremiah Masoli. The big thing is, can he handle the constant pass rush that Chris Jones is going to dial up?
Yeah, and when you look at Masoli, his maneuverability to me is probably the X factor in this game, and the reason why I probably like the Hamilton Tiger Cats to win this game. I've just never been sold on McLeod Bethel Thompson. I know a lot of people are. I've talked to people within the Toronto organization. Jarius Jackson loves McLeod Bethel Thompson. One of the reasons they wound up trading Arbuckle away is they wanted to make his team. But in all honesty, if I'm looking at those 2 quarterbacks, I'm with you. I'm picking Mazzoli over McBeth.
Yeah, there have been some turnovers down the stretch for Thompson, but here's an interesting thing for me is the matchup between Hamilton's receivers, which are all pretty small, quick players, Speedy Banks, Braylon Addison, and others, and you look at the defensive backs for Toronto, long, just lengthy physical players that have the ability to get up and press and win contested balls when they go up. So that matchup's going to be interesting to me. That not just the ability for Hamilton to separate, but can they get up and win some contested balls, because those are going to be available to them. But all that said, I'm still taking Hamilton on the road to get back to the Grey Cup and to create a Grey Cup rematch, because it's going to be pretty impossible to pick against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the West.
No, I mean, I just look at that Western Final. I think Saskatchewan was lucky to beat the Calgary Stampeders. They're not going to be as lucky. Zach Collaros will not do what Cody Fajardo did and hand the ball over to you several times in that game. I just think Winnipeg they're above everyone else. The only team that can beat Winnipeg right now is Winnipeg, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because they're not only physically better than everybody right now, but they're playing mistake-free. Andrew Harris not expected to play in this game. It's been like 52, 53 days since he first suffered that knee injury. He hasn't been back on the field yet, so I don't believe he will play. They're not going to rule him out till as late as possible, but Brady Oliveira is expected to be back. And Johnny Augustine, when he played in the last game at running back, he looked very, very good. You've got Kenny Lawler, who's been so dynamic for Winnipeg, giving them a true number one receiver. I just think there are too many holes for Calgary right now, and I think they did well to win a playoff game and get to this point, but I do not see a path to victory for Saskatchewan in Winnipeg for the Western Final. I'm looking forward to putting on some gloves and earmuffs.
Place drop.
Hey, you're coming to Grey Cup, though, aren't you?
Yep. Going to Grey Cup. Looking forward to it. Going to be doing some work for BCLions.com, doing some shows out there. So we'll be one of our guests.
Well, and we'll probably be doing our show out there during Grey Cup week, so we're going to look forward to that as well. But in the meantime, we thank you for tuning in. We have got Winnipeg and Hamilton advancing for a Grey Cup rematch over 2019. The Bombers were heavy underdogs in that game. If it, in fact, does happen to be the matchup again, they'll be heavy favorites. We'll see what that looks like, but should be a lot of fun with the CFL playoffs this weekend.